Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, as my recent videos have stated, several of them I've been looking into the quote Spooky2 and John the Terrible, if he is an engineer, White. It's really after watching endless testimonials and watching his products, looking through his entire catalog, I'm getting more and more to believe that this is a complete and total fraud. Nothing he does seems to have any sense to it, nor if any of it is based on the science that he thinks is out there about Rife, who really nobody knows what he had. His frequencies and everything else are really unknown. His basic frequency generator isn't even the type that he readily admits that Rife used to cure people. He claims that Rife was using plasma waves, and he does have a plasma attachment, of course, for some extra money. And remember, you don't need one frequency generator. You got to have at least two. And all the accessories. So pretty much you go from his base level up to about 800 or higher to get what is considered basic need. This is highly pushed. Interesting, all the testimonials also talk about how much equipment they have. Well, these testimonials are starting to stink like 3-day-old fish. They all tend to say the same thing in terms of how much equipment they have, how basically what they did failed. One goofball woman I'm watching on her testimonials said this cured all of her problems in life. She was fat and ugly, and now she looks like Marilyn Monroe. And she's fully aware or fully believes that if she had a arm or a leg missing, that this technology could grow it back. Did you get that from Rife, John Whitey? Well, there's a whole slew of problems here, including his crybaby attitude that he's trying to help the world while he's spending tens of millions of dollars on advertising that he must have got somewhere. His organization seems to be heavily involved with and possibly even controlled by the Chinese, who are probably making a pretty penny off of this. What he's connected with it or not, I do see other people that are involved that are answering on different places. One person said they couldn't afford it. He was a vet, had nothing, and one of his Chinese colleagues told him to go to a website somewhere to look at products. Boy, how sympathetic are you there, Johnny boy? I don't know how much he's helping people that can't afford his stuff. And while his stuff is, I wouldn't say it's inexpensive compared to what you can get out there with frequency generators. His products are expensive. You can get many excellent generators, blood purifiers, Bob Beck units for a few $100s. With him, you're basically looking at what he wants you to do. It's going to cost you $700 to $1,000, and that's only for part one. Remember, you're going to get all this other stuff because that's not going to work too well, so you're going to have to get all the other stuff. So you'll be into this for thousands. Nor is his regular new, what he calls a scalar unit, which, again, he's using the wrong terminology. He doesn't seem to understand what any of these terms mean. He doesn't understand what radionics is. Scalars are supposed to be a radionic, quote, frequency, which is not electromagnetic. He doesn't get that at all. All of his science is poor. His designs are horrible. All of his equipment looks ugly. It's bulky. It's hard to use. And remember, if you get some of his units, particularly his generators, you're going to need a computer to go with them because you've got to download, you've got to click and paste and jump and bop all around. It's not a plug and play, people. You're going to be spending hours, and you can spend at least 4 to 5 hours, which are right now up on YouTube, of all the training you need to use the unit. So maybe by the time you finish your training, you may not even be alive anymore. Huh, Johnny? Well, I have a real problem with this kind of bogus engineering, which I'm not even sure he's an engineer or not. He never really has claimed it. He did in an interview saying that he got accreditation as an engineer. He doesn't state it anywhere, just like he doesn't state anything. This is a company that's making millions of dollars and spending millions of dollars advertising. Yet there's not a single study done by a third party, or anybody for that matter, even they haven't done anything, to give any proof that this works other than testimonials from really a bunch, looks like they're either put up people or they're a bunch of nut jobs. The testimonials are all filmed horribly from people that seem to have the IQ of a handball, and we keep running into that. Yeah, let's go. Why don't you show us some of that tech, John, where you can grow back limbs? Now, Rife, which I will be doing separate things on him in particular, certainly had some interesting stuff, but it was based in plasma frequencies and using a very advanced type of microscope to prove that the actual frequencies were working on that particular virus or illness. None of this John has. He seems to misunderstand. Rife's wife died much earlier than him, 20, 30 years earlier than he died. His wife died. We see this time and time again. What's the matter? He couldn't cure her? Rife himself died at the mediocre age of 80, and they want to blame his alcoholism and everything else. Well, why didn't you go in and take care of your liver, John? Why wasn't Royal Raymond Rife able to cure his alcoholism? And if not, why was he not able to restore his actual liver? John went so far to say that he was taking Valium with alcohol, and this is what gave him a heart attack. Well, again, he wasn't using his own tech, if that's the real story, and I'm not sure that necessarily kills you. Valium is kind of a joke in the world of drugs, and if you combined a lot, maybe there is a potential problem. But again, to say that's what he died from, we just don't really know. But the point is that if we're saying he died from alcoholism or overdose of alcohol and Valium, well, that is difficult to prove to know it's over. So we really don't know. So I don't know if an autopsy was done, what were the facts made of that, but the fact that his wife died 10, 20 years prior to him, he couldn't cure her either. This just goes on and on with all these alternative practitioners that don't live long and their family members die, including the horrific orgonite garbage produced by the Satanist Carl Welz. So all of this stuff just never adds up. So I don't know. And they've also they said that Hula Clark had died of cancer, yet there was no biopsy done. So we don't really know because there was not a final reality there. And she was into frequencies, based it on Rife, and had her own generators and everything else. And if she did die from cancer, which, as I said, has really never been confirmed, even though I think even her website says she did, so shows that there's a problem with this. But of course, John knows better. He's went through all of it, and he's got helpers from around the world with his electromagnetic junk out there selling one machine after another that gets more and more expensive as they go out there, and bigger. Pretty soon you'll have to buy a mansion just to get a simple few minutes treatment. So all of this doesn't make sense. Other people out there is the same thing. As I said, one woman said her sister was dying and was hopeless, dying from candida. Now, candida is a fungal infection. Now, I'm not sure if that is deadly. I never heard of that being deadly. Candida is normally in your body. When it grows too much and you get too much fungus, I guess it could be a real problem. But I've never heard of that. But of course, after using John's whippy-dippy-doo, her sister is doing fine. And of course, she mentions yes. And of course, now I have 6 of his products, naming off a long line of stuff he had. Because of course, number 1 product didn't work to begin with. So you have to keep buying other ones. And of course, that's the other problem with him. Why do we need so many products? And I brought this up in my longer lectures, but why do we need so many products if his one machine works so well? Or if his plasma works and it's free? Why do we need silver colloidals, cold lasers, and all these other things? This is a greedy guy who's out there trying to sell as much stuff as he can on questionable technologies that never really have worked all that well, like cold lasers and everything else. But he's going to tell you how wonderful they work so he can make sure he can sell more to you. And he's able to have mediocre prices because of the fact that he's living and working and having things produced right in China. So the point is he can't get things produced any cheaper there. And he certainly has the volume, with all the millions of dollars of advertising he's doing, to sell enough volume so that he can sell things inexpensively, or I should say lower cost. I don't think $1,000, $2,000 is inexpensive. I don't think, and let's clarify this because people don't listen very well. I don't think that this is a lot of money, but it's a lot of money when you're misleading people thinking that they're going to buy this for cures. Now, another woman in Holland, boy, I'm just about ready to vomit with all these testimonials, was talking about she had Lyme's disease. And this is something he claims to cure. He claims to cure cancer and Lyme's disease. So, and this is right out there, and this is highly illegal. As a matter of fact, the Federal Trade Commission warned him in 2020 to take down any information that he was saying that his machine would work on COVID-19. Why they allowed him to go and preach the other garbage about his machine is mind-boggling. And the fact that YouTube will put on basically disinformation, making claims about an illegal medical product is shocking. Oh, and this is something that people have been pounded on. Also, there's a lot of, again, no proof whatsoever. He has millions of dollars, but he's not doing any research whatsoever to get third-party proof. All he's got is some goofball organization out of Europe that claims that using, I'm not sure which machine that was, that there was a slowing down of growth. Yeah. So that's not. You need to stop the growth. Slowing down is an insult. And it seems like everything, if you listen to the testimonials carefully, you'll find all of it is pretty damn bogus. So let's go back to this Dutch woman. I'm assuming she was wearing wooden shoes during the entire testimonial video. But the whole idea is we have to understand that, okay, she said she had Lyme's disease. And she said she's owned her equipment for over a year now. And she was introduced to it by a friend of hers who had a plasma unit and a couple of other gimps and goops and gops. Again, you're talking about $2,500, $3,000 worth of stuff. So it's not that they bite you with the lower cost frequency generator, which is around $400. Then they say, well, you need two of them, $800, shipping, everything else $1,000. Yeah, but you have to go on to the scalar unit, which is not scalar whatsoever. I'm not sure what he's doing. You have to connect one multi-wave oscillator unit to the other, was really is what he's talking about here. So he's using electromagnetic here again. I don't think he understands the difference between scalar and electromagnetic. He keeps using them interchangeably, and it's not. Radionic scalar frequencies, which is what they're kind of known today, and which I'm using myself now because there's such a push on this, is completely and totally different. You could say a pyramid creates scalar energy. There's no electricity involved in it. For all of you people out there that are friends of orgone, and we're talking about the original orgone discovered by and accumulated in machines from Wilhelm Reich. No electricity whatsoever. There's no such thing as electric orgone, plain and simple. So we do have to keep those things in mind to understand that. So he's very confused about that. These are electronic units, but remember, you can grow back a leg. Now if we could just grow back John White's brain and get the real thing. So his easygoing little attitude now, I think, is a complete con and a game. I don't trust this guy whatsoever. But let's go back to this woman in Holland. And I tend to do this, wander about. So she had the equipment for a year. She's had Lyme disease. And she used the plasma and whatever else her buddy, and they both have wooden shoes, I'm assuming. And he lived near the canal. And the whole idea is that it helped her a lot. Helped her a lot? Where's the cure, John? So I haven't found one person that stated that it's completely knocked out. I think the person with Candida said that her sister was completely cured within a few months. Okay? This is a fungal killing through using a frequency. And again, it's a complicated process of how this is doing. Of course, as I said, she had like 7 or 8 machines, probably worth about $5,000. And probably took her that many machines to get whatever results. And again, I just don't believe it. I don't believe anything anybody tells me, no matter who they are. I want to see facts, and I want facts from a third party, not from, here's the facts. I invented it. I designed it. I said it works, and you buy it. That's really what you get from everybody. But, why am I being so hard on this stuff? The reason I'm being hard on this stuff is when you go out and you start saying you're curing people and you're using this for cancer and Lyme's disease, which is all illegal, it is you are held to a higher understanding. People, including my type of equipment, which is for basically metaphysical type things, success, well-being, protection, etc. This is very difficult to prove to begin with. But we have thousands of testimonials, like everybody else, of everybody how they love this and have helped their lives. And I've proven it to myself for over 40 years. But this is very difficult to prove. It isn't difficult to prove when you start getting into practicing medicine. He is diagnosing. He has a diagnosis machine, his feedback machine. He is treating by using the frequencies, and he's claiming cures. This is outrageous. So this puts people in the bad position of why government agencies tend to want to enforce these things. And that's the fact that people are doing what is actually bad or possibly inefficient treatments while they're delaying getting things that may help them. Which is kind of jokey to say with common medical science, which I am not a fan of. But I also understand that common medical practices have saved billions of people, and drugs have saved billions of people as well, from antibiotics to so many other things that have saved people's lives by the billions. So I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but I'm not a big fan of the medical industry. I'm also not a big fan whatsoever of alternative people like this, from the supplement suppliers that lie to you and give you junk supplements that are never absorbed by the body, but your toilet bowl loves them. And the whole idea is with that. So I am not happy with anybody. And certainly if you're taking the high road wanting to help people like John White claims he's doing, he certainly has an awful lot of bad science, and he knows nothing. He's talking to if they even are, he's talking to other bozo college trained in the dogma of regular science, engineering, etc., of what's going on here. So he's got a lot of bad information if that's his only background. There's very little known about Royal Raymond Rife in terms of really what's out there. And he wants to claim a 100-year-old study that we don't know if that's even true or not. As I've mentioned, we do know that Rife's wife died. We also know that he died at 80. And I'm not sure what all this was, but I don't know if he was a terrible alcoholic or not. I mean, a lot of people may drink a lot. That doesn't necessarily mean that it kills them. All the people who live very long that drink a lot are the Japanese. They drink copious quantities of whiskey and beer and sake and wine and everything else. The Japanese are well known for consuming lots and lots of liquor. And so are the Mediterraneans that people say live so long, the Italians, etc. They are all, and for that matter, if you want to go into the French, who seem to have less heart trouble, are boozing it down well. And of course, the French drink a lot of whiskey. That's where Chivas Regal comes from, that people think is a great scotch. Well, that was a French company that went in there and made that. So to think that this stuff is the demon drink and destroys everybody, I think is something of a question to begin with. If you're an alcoholic, it's horrible for you if you're a drug addict for anything, including, of course, the legal drug and all those horrible addicts who I'd immediately arrest and put into facilities that smoke cigarettes, a known poison, and it's readily available out there. So we just don't know, and I don't think John knows any of this either. I'm not sure where he got all his facts from, but it's secondhand, thirdhand books written that are poorly put together. We just don't know. There's a lot of gossip. And there's a lot of people that want to put down the medical industry, rightfully so, and want to say they know better with no proof behind them. Yes, John, that's you. And I'm starting to really wonder with this. But let's get back to the old Dutch woman. So the whole idea is she was using this unit for over a year of her own and using her neighbors, which had a plasma ball. It helped her. It helped her? Well, the whole idea is that they're saying they can cure Lyme disease. And almost every case I've seen, there's been a thing saying it helped. Most of the testimonials are not going into people saying that, well, I no longer have this condition, or if we want to use the crude term, which I'm sure they're trying to stay away from, they cured themselves. Well, that's not what this person from Holland said. her Lyme disease, which apparently has rampant in the world, she feels better. Okay? Okay. Well, that's not good enough for me. So if you get something, you like it, and it claims it works for you, and this is very typical of what I hear from a lot of people with all sorts of these claimed healing tools, is that it kind of helps them. How do you judge kind of helps you? There's really only two things when it comes down to a medical condition. You either have it or don't have it. And if you have it, how did you don't have it? Meaning, how did you cure yourself? So it's as simple as that. So these halfway claims are something that we have to be very, very careful of, because really what we're talking about is no results. And the whole idea is that they all want to buy more and more equipment so that they're into this stuff for $5,000 or $6,000. And apparently, John has no problem producing more and more equipment. Why you would possibly need a silver colloidal unit still kind of blows my mind. The frequencies don't do that. Did Rife miss something, Johnny boy? Well, I think Rife missed a lot. We just don't know what happened with Rife or not. But it was a long process, as the use of really advanced, quote, real scalar equipment, often called radionics, is quite a complicated process, and you have to know what you're doing. And you have to know the science behind it, which, of course, you don't know at all, Johnny. So the whole idea, and the entire Spooky2 community knows absolutely nothing about radionics, and they like to use the term scalar so they can move it away from a traditional medical device. They're not doing anything scalar-based. The other thing is saying that you're going to connect to somebody through their fingernails is totally and completely bogus. You cannot send regular, quote, he would call them Hertzian frequencies. I call them Maxwell frequencies, by the person who really invented it, and not the Khan from the German Arabs who threw this guy in who did nothing except testy. You know, put a couple of test tubes up. We'll name it after you now. So the whole idea is these are the kind of nonsense you run into, but one testimonial after another is like that, to getting to the absurdity that this one woman thought that she could even grow back a limb because she felt that this kind of irrational, crazy thinking by these neurotic people who are using nothing more than the hyped placebo to get results is upsetting and dangerous to the public. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know what this equipment can do or not, but it's nothing more than trashy, common frequency generators that you can get for a lot cheaper money without spending hundreds or even thousands out there if you're going to use this. But you can certainly get some very nice units for $300-400 that are ready to go. That all you have to do is get a little book out, dial in the frequencies, or run a particular program. You don't need a laptop. You don't have to go into the programs. You don't have to see what works or this. Seems to me his programs are very complicated, and that's the reason why he has training programs that are 4, 5, 6, 8 hours of training to use a frequency generator. Come on. So this kind of stuff that he's thrown together here and got away with this for many, many years. And there's been some people who have tested his equipment out going back to 2017. So it just shows you how long he's been around and how long he's been making a lot of money. And we're talking about millions here. So quite frankly, I don't see any great results from any of this. Testimonials are not good enough. With all his money, and that goes with many other people out there that make all these claims, there is absolutely no direct medical trials that went on. Even where John lives in China, which he could probably do inexpensively, no information coming back. It just appears from one short study that the slowing down, I don't care how slow it is, it's still there. The bottom line, if it takes you another 2 or 3 years to die from cancer, well, that's not a cancer cure. The fact that you get bogus things of like this one Brit who said, I don't know, was it his grandmother or something who was dying from cancer, and he zapped her using the, just happened to get it, didn't get it for the reason to treat her, he just happened to have the unit and happened to have a picture and her fingernails. What? You didn't buy this unit for a specific purpose? He knew this, I guess it was his grandmother was having such problems, who had terminal cancer. And of course, hit her with that, and she jumped around like a 3-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever you want to go. And of course, this didn't last very long, but I don't believe that either. You're not going to transfer that. And if you are going to pick somebody up, he said she was so weak she couldn't stir a spoon in her tea. Typical Brit. Oh, she couldn't even stir the milk into her tea. It was quite frightening, you know. But when he hit her, she was able to do it. And then, of course, she was functioning. And, of course, and you're talking about within a few hours or something. And then all of a sudden, he takes it off and she's back. Then he puts it on. But, of course, he couldn't cure her. He couldn't make her feel good. She wanted to die at this stage because she was so sick, even though she was feeling better. Or was she feeling better? Maybe she was feeling worse. So this is the kind of bogus garbage that we're getting from these testimonials that took any area of his technologies, any of it that could give it some credit, and totally flushed it down the toilet in my mind. This kind of irresponsible nonsense. And if you want to use testimonials, well, you ever heard of editing, John? Maybe you should edit things a little better and not have the horrible type of stuff you're putting up there that sounds ridiculous. The fact that he puts ridiculous stuff up there that really doesn't say that much in the end, which really says failure. This woman from Holland, the Netherlands, was feeling a little better. Oh, thank you, Johnny. Feeling a little better. I can dance with me wooden shoes on. So the whole idea is this is the kind of nonsense that you run into. So after using it for a year or so, including using the plasma beam, she felt a little better. And she had to say that she felt a little better. Well, that's not enough. And of course, that's strictly placebo effect, like everything that he's generating is getting. I don't believe any of this. There's no proof afterwards. Nobody has verified that any of this works. He's got some quasi goofy little test going on in vitro, meaning in the actual test tube, in the Petri disk, that says that the cells didn't grow as fast. And I'm not even sure how you can judge that very well. It seems to me you'd have to have an awful long study to find the rate of growth of things. Again, that's a lot of bad science, and I'm sure he works with a lot of bad scientific people. As I said, he's a very poor engineer. He has no aesthetics understanding. All of his equipment is pretty ugly, bulky. It's big. He claims he's using a technology that is not in any way computerized. He's using old analog equipment. Of course, this has problems to a large extent in trying to make things a little smaller. Now, to a certain extent, that type of thinking but he's not using anything other than plasma balls. When it goes to using analog, he's not using things that are known to produce great results. And what, of course, Rife used in the 20s and 30s and everything else. And those are what we call tubes, vacuum tubes, valves, as they like to call them in Euroland. So the whole idea is that all of that is something he seems to jump over. So I'm not sure what he's doing with all his stuff, but generally people use analog stuff as much as he does because they really haven't ever made anything in the real world, even though he is not that old. You run into this, and I used to run into this all the time working with 70, 80-year-old people that grew up in the 40s and 50s, and all they had was tubes. So they really didn't know anything about integrated circuits or anything else. Now, I do tend with technologies such as particularly scalar, radionic, etc., when you're using what's considered more analog stuff, well, the kind of energy you're dealing with is not going to work well through transistors. But if you're using frequencies, when you start using solid state stuff, transistors and other things, you tend to be able to make them better when you're using a lot of the new electrical components. So going back to older components to produce pure frequencies, in some aspects is invalid, even though if you want to get the best 7.8 frequencies, the best way you get that, the resonance of it, is by using tube amplifiers and of that particular type. So that's exactly what you have to do with all of it. So if you're going to use that kind of technology. So he seems to be missing on every vote, and as he said, he continues to add on a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense. You don't need to use an antiviral such as silver, which is what it's mainly used for when you take silver colloidal or tiny bits of silver to get into your system and blood. If you can kill that with frequencies, does it make sense? You don't need cold laser therapies either, because what you're doing is using, again, pseudo laser light being put into energy sections and into your blood that are killing viruses. Well, what works or not here? And then he's mixing rife frequencies made from plasma in with, quote, scalar radionic energies. And he has made radionic machines in the past, and I have seen a brief picture of one, a small picture. I was unable to look at too carefully. I don't know if you can find that online or not, but I don't have endless time to look into this stuff. But certainly that was not something that was newly done. He doesn't understand the amplification of scalar energies, the transmission of them, the scalar energies themselves, or anything else. He seems to be lost with all of this, even though, of course, he's making now what appears to be a copy of a multi-wave oscillator, which is connected by wires. That's what his new Spooky2 with these big boxes are. So, all of this stuff, and the people, when you really look at them, like this woman that thinks you can grow back limbs, I mean, she comes out as batty as you can get. I mean, it looks like she filmed this in a hotel room, but it probably should have been in a rubber room or a padded cell. I mean, the kind of ridiculous claims these people made and everything else just don't hold up, and there's no before, no after films, there's no verification by doctors, there's nothing on file. I doubt that John has anything on file whatsoever with each of these people. Doctor's statements, after statements, or just, it may be difficult to get that. I don't know how many doctors are going to say that, somebody had candida, now they don't. And of course, they don't have to come to any conclusions, and that didn't necessarily happen from the use of his technology. It could have been used from the use of antifungals. And there are antifungals, by the way, out there, people. And most of these people are taking all sorts of supplements, herbs, and other things, as well as using these machines, so it's very difficult. John likes to use essential oils, particularly frankincense, which has some poor data stating that it may cure cancer. We just don't know because there hasn't, again, been very many studies. But of course, he jumps on the conclusion of these things done by the frankincense oil industry, who then publicize this stuff so they can make lots of money, like they do with all these supplements, which are basically, we'd call them junior pharma. Junior pharma is your vitamins, your herbs, and other things, because these are billion-dollar organizations, companies, etc., that are making a fortune off of selling these things, particularly a lot of them out of Utah, where the Mormons are heavily involved in this. And as far as I'm concerned, they lack a lot of credibility in general. So the whole idea is that I don't see anything coming out of this organization that is well engineered, aesthetically pleasing, easy to use, and I'm not sure anything. And since John White refuses to state where he got his degree from, I'm not sure if he has a degree or not. He claims he got a degree. He started out as an electrician building houses, and he was so genius that his boss said, "Go to engineering school, buddy. You shouldn't be laying wire. You should be laying nonsense, making machines that are worthless." So apparently from there, he went there, and after going through that, and I'm not sure what all it is, he got into the cafe business with a few other people. And there's a little group of these people around, and was able to, apparently, to make and you can make a lot of money with a restaurant. People, eat every day, 3 times a day. So the whole idea is that apparently got into this, made a lot of money, was doing stuff on the side. Now, this is the story. And I don't know if he's hooked up to some cancer group in New Zealand, which is claimed as well. And I'm not sure what they're doing. But certainly this is it, and they're certainly all part of it. My problem here is not the fact of this technology, because it's unproven in my mind entirely. The kind of testimonials he's getting are jokey and say nothing. I treated grandma who was dying. It kind of worked. One person, of course, said that her sister, and it wasn't her making the statement, she was making the statement for her sister, and she had lots of other stuff as well. Her sister had stuff, and she had a bunch of stuff. Into the thousands and thousands here. They're not buying one generator doing it, because it doesn't work with one generator anyway. You got to have two. So you're up to $800 right there. So the whole idea is that it is not what people think it is. And this guy is making a fortune, and he's doing this out of China because he understands the problems here. But the fact that for years he's been able to advertise the cure for cancer and for Lyme's disease is just shocking to me that he gets away with this. And totally and completely illegal, sponsored further by companies like YouTube, who should be held financially liable for all this kind of stuff. This is very nasty, dangerous stuff. And it's not an insinuation. People are getting up there and stating that this stuff is used to treat cancer, and they show you an entire way of doing it. Yet when we get down to it, the testimonials are weaving a road of mystery, darkness, and unsurety by the fact of saying it kind of worked. Well, kind of work isn't enough in my book. It's either got to work or it doesn't work. As far as I'm concerned, at this particular point, I would say that this technology is poorly put together. It is not inexpensive. It's not for everybody. Unless you have $2,500 you can just pop out of your pocket. And considering the rents and everything else that are out there now, I don't know how many people have that. On the other hand, it's certainly not like the bogus crap that you get out of Europe called bioresidence from the Germans that want $15,000 or $20,000 for basically the same stuff, which is supposed to be at a much higher level of doing things. Secondly, all these frequencies are yours for free online. And secondly, there's all sorts of frequencies that they also claim that you can listen to, watch on YouTube that are supposed to do the same thing. So basically, you can just listen to frequencies and it's going to have the same effect as a generator is going to have. These are all the things that have to be discussed. I don't believe that. I've listened to frequencies. A lot of these generators I've used myself as well, the more primitive ones. Nothing was ever done by it. Absolutely nothing. There's a lot of these going around, these quote zappers, which have even toxic orgone in them. They do nothing, yet there are a legion of criminal people who are behind these orgone zappers that claim that they work, and there's long pages of testimonials saying that they cured themselves of cancer, as well as knocking out cell towers with a plastic ball with some a little bit of bits of aluminum in it. Ooh, maybe you'll drop a teeny stone in. Look out, don't put that stone in there. You'll blow up the world. This is the kind of nonsense that keeps being pushed on people. And as far as I'm concerned, it's all a fraud. And the bottom line is this entire machine has no credibility whatsoever. It makes no scientific sense at all, including alternative scientific sense. We know nothing about Rife technology. It's a very confused area of what's used. And even John himself said he was not using, quote, regular frequencies. He was using plasma frequencies, examining those frequencies and how they affected different viruses under his particular microscope. Does everybody get that? Well, you should. So buyer beware here, people. If you've got $2,000 to try and you're not feeling too good, I couldn't say that would be a wrong thing to do. And remember, everybody, if you want real tests to be done by third parties like myself, make sure you pop over to Patreon. And for $6 a month, not only do you get a bunch of free downloads, which are constantly new ones are put up every week, but you'll be able to start we'll have monthly money to go out and buy stuff like this and test it. My philosophy is to work on stuff like this and make it work with all possible help, but we will not rig it. But we must understand that things are not as straightforward as we think it is. On the other hand, when somebody is making a fortune like this guy is, and people, you've got the goofballs that he has up there making these testimonials, this proves nothing. Basically, it makes his technology look terrible, horribly terrible. And right at this particular point, I'm not sure this is anything more than basically a goofy which really turns into a relatively high price because you're talking about $2 to $3 grand to get everything, if not more, at least $3 grand to get most of his stuff, and there'll be endless things to get after this. Turns out to be kind of a money-making con. So I hope that clears things up, and I hope that you become a member of Patreon so we can get out there and test stuff like this in a proper way and give a third party's opinion of all of this, and we can walk you through the entire process. Not paid advertisers or people that are there, and I don't care if they're paid or not. Who are they to make any kind of judgments on anything? They're basically company spokesmen. Until next time.